Howdy again. So I received a tip on my last video that I should check out the Average Gamer's Free-to-Play Guide, which involves doing rare drafts until you have enough packs to open and complete the set. Something seemed a little fishy to me about that, so I figured I should do a little more digging, and the Average Gamer did a good job. He made it look like a solid method. That was in a different set than we're dealing with now, so I took the liberty of actually going and modeling this and testing it against some other strategies and seeing what we could come up with. So we're going to check that out. So the first method I wanted to look at is probably the one that most new players will do, which is just buying packs. We have a few given variables that we need to set. You can model any set by just changing these numbers with this math, because most of this stuff doesn't change. In Kamigawa, there are 236 individual rare cards. There are 83 days from the previous rotation, so I'm assuming that you were farming gold every day between then and now. The way I figured out that the amount of gold you would have to start this set is assuming that you spent 0 gold on anything from the last mastery set. You did this method before, so you're rolling this method or any method, but you had the mastery pass. So that's the assumption going into both the quick draft method and then the sealed method, which I'll get into in a bit. I did not assume that with the just buying packs method, because I assume that the average player who's just buying packs isn't drafting, so they're not going to have gems to spend on the mastery pass, so they don't get that additional value out of it. I took 83 days of your daily gold allowance. So I assume you do your 4 wins, and I assume you reroll your 500 gold quests up to 750, and then do those. Using this method, I came up with the number of packs you would need to buy, spending wild cards, to get all of the rares in the set, which came out to be almost exactly the same amount. So that's buying packs, and then also opening your rare wild cards and using them on it. So you need 235 packs total for 236 rares. That's going to run you 235,000 gold, and in order to do that, you need to be earning 2,832 gold on average per day. It's not possible. End of the day, it's not possible. If you're an average player completing your 4 wins and your daily quests and just spending that gold on packs, you'll get 13 wild cards and 103 total rares for a set completion of 44%. We're going to look at the method that was proposed by the average gamer. He says draft for 50 to 60% of rares, and I find it, using his numbers, it's much more favorable to say we're going to go to 60%, because he assumes that we're getting 4 rares per draft with no duplicates all the way up to 60%, which I don't think is real. But for the sake of this argument, we're going to give him the benefit of the doubt and assume it is. The gold cost for that method, assuming that we're getting 4 rares per draft with no duplicates, and reinvesting all of our gems into gold, reinvesting all of our gems into more runs. Mind you, this is not saving anything for a mastery pass or anything, but that comes out to an initial cost of 95,000 gold. So it's a bit higher than what he was recommending. He said 50 to 60k, and I don't think that's a real number, but that was also not for Kamigawa, so I can't really critique that. It's not an apples to apples comparison, and it would be unfair to judge him on that, because I'm not running his data. But using his method of getting 60% of rares, assuming we're getting no doubles and we're getting 4 rares per pack, we'll need an initial investment of 95,000 gold to get us up to 75% of the rares. I also wanted to check how effective it is to do sealed. So the idea here is you take all of the gold that you earn throughout the season, you spend it on quick drafts, and you rare draft those quick drafts. And then you end up with 6,000 gems left from that. Then you take those 6,000 gems and you do sealed runs until you can no longer do sealed runs, because sealed packs have duplicate protection. So you're in a spot where you're not going to get stuck with like drafting 50 to 60% of rares. You might have a double come up, and that's wasted value. So with sealed, you can avoid that situation. And then I factored in the packs from the Mastery Pass, the packs from the season rewards, and figured out how many packs you'd end up with total, how many rare wild cards you'd end up with, and your set completion percent, which is actually pretty on point here. And I did not include the mastery in this because the math was hard. But I did want to take his method and fully explore it to its potential maximum, so I actually did that here. All of these reward tracks are assuming a 50% win rate, right? If you're above a 50% win rate, this is going to be better. If you're below 50%, it's going to be a little worse, but probably not too much, because this is nearly bottomed out. I didn't think that was a fair comparison to do here, and I didn't like that we were using an assumption of 4 rares per draft with no duplicates, and that we were going to 60% of rares and kind of basing everything around those numbers. That to me seemed like a pretty uncomfortable way to do it. So instead, what I wanted to do was I wanted to say, okay, let's say we just earn all of our gold possible per day from Crimson Vow to the start of Kamigawa. We use that, all of it, to rare draft. We take the gems we get from rare drafting, we buy the next season's Mastery Pass, and then we burn the rest of it down to nothing on you doing drafts, assuming a 50% win rate. So we're going to lose gems every time we draft, but let's just say we burn these down to nothing, because we're not going infinite, but we're going to play. So we do that. We're assuming that we're still going to be getting our 4 wins. We assume that we're going to be getting our Mastery Pass. We assume that we're going to be getting our season rewards. So this is like a full, fair assumption on what you could expect to get. So we started with 106,000 gold, because that's what you would get just doing your 4 wins in your daily quest every single day, not missing a single day, from the end of the last season to the start of this one. That gives us 22 rare drafts just using gold, which should net us, not assuming 4 rares per draft, but assuming the guaranteed 3 rares per draft. It seemed fair for me to model it this way, because we've got 3 rares per draft, less our mythics, but that should account for any sort of duplicates we get. I assume that the rares we'll get past will average out with the duplicates we get later. That's why I did it this way, and we removed the mythics from the count. So this is just rares, not rares and mythics. So we'll pull 57 rares, we'll pull 5.4k gems, and we'll pull 29 packs. So that puts us at 24% set completion just from using gold to do drafts. We still haven't opened these packs yet. This is just converting all of our gold to gems, basically. And then from there, we use gems, and we burn to 0. That gets us another 13 drafts, 13 rare drafts, which will pull us another 34 rares and 17 packs for a total of 91 rares between gold and gems. And that'll put us at 39% set completion just from rare drafting, which doesn't get us to our 60%, but it does get us as far as we can mathematically go, right? So you can't go higher. On average, you can't go higher. I mean, you could go higher if you had a better win rate, or if you got lucky opening packs and got more than my assumed averages. So if we took that to if we took our rares to 4, we'll explore that in a minute. That gets us 39% rare draft completion from burning all of our gold into gems and then burning all of those gems down to nothing after we buy the Mastery Pass. So that gives us 97 packs and 39% draft or rare completion. We would then open those packs for another 84 rares and 12 wild cards, giving us a total of 187 of the total 236 rares, and that's a 79% set completion. So using his method, including the Mastery Pass and the season rewards, you can get to 80% set completion. That's not bad. Notably, you do pull one less rare wild card than using the sealed method or the just buying packs method, but I think the overall set completion is probably worth it. We're going to assume 4 here. That gets us to 60% for rare draft completion. If we take the assumption that we're getting 4 rares, then it looks like we get 100% set completion here. So, yeah, that's definitely a viable method. 100%, that is a viable method. But yeah, I think that's a viable model if we wanted to use it. But I also think it would take godly willpower to kind of do it. And I'd like to point out that you're reliant. You still need to spend these rare wild cards on a deck if you don't get lucky and open cards that you need. You're still, if you're unlucky and you don't open any cards, you're still looking at 2 sets before you can build a deck or more, right? The exact deck you want if you're really unlucky. But I think over time, if you play for 2 sets, you can probably have most of the decks you're trying to build. And you don't have to touch standard event. You don't have to be good at the game. You can just do this method, and as long as you are an average player, you will get to 80% set completion, which should be enough for most decks. So that's with the current system that I don't really expect to change when they make their changes to the standard event coming up. And it's not necessarily as unfair as I initially thought it was, because you don't need to enter a competitive environment to earn the cards that you need to play. You can just sit down, play Magic with what you have, and have fun. And like I said, entering the codes at the beginning and then doing something like just brawl events. I've personally just put together a brawl deck, and I've been having a ton of fun in the unrated queue, just playing what I feel like, right? And I think that's a really good way of doing things. Yeah, thanks to Italio Richiera. I apologize, I butchered your name. For the suggestion, I do think it's a better method than I was initially investigating, so thank you very much for pointing it out, and thank you to the average gamer for publicizing this method on YouTube. I'd seen it once in a Reddit post, but completely forgot about it. Yeah. So if you want to just play Magic every day and get 80% of your sets, then maybe 2 or 3 expansions, you can build most meta decks. Thanks everyone for watching. Have a nice day. Oh, like and subscribe. Bye. Or adios.